Yeah, about you, but it's really sweet.
No, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
What?
I talk about wanting to kill you one time.
Okay, that's fine.
You said in the tweet that Vince Staples, that a lot of people were criticizing you for that project. Like, it said it didn't sound like you. Like, and you just trying to make sense of it. Do you remember that?
I wasn't even trying to make sense of it. I just think people are stupid.
The audience comes last.
How can that be?
Well, the audience doesn't know what they want.
What's up, YouTube? It's KayHon, aka KayHon, put you on, and today we got a special topic. And as you can see in the title, the audience comes last. Now, if you like the content, hit me a like and subscribe, but let's get into this, man. I just want to talk about kind of my initial thoughts with this video. My initial idea, phrasing, mentality behind this video was initially going to be that critics don't matter. Okay, now that was my initial thesis of this video. Now, as I did like more thinking, I kind of delved deeper and I kind of got into it more. I realized that critics do matter, and I'll explain why later in this video, but critics are very important and we do need to consider them. However, I believe, and as long with Rick Rubin, and that's kind of where I got this thought from, is that the audience comes last. But first, we need to describe and explain kind of like why critics are even important or like impactful, and why I think they have a negative connotation, and why I kind of think negatively a little bit of critics or myself in terms of the relationship that critics have with artists. Now, who are critics? I think that question is kind of like, seems self-explanatory. Critics are like Anthony Fantano, Sean C., anybody who writes reviews, Alphonse Pierre is another one that I reviewed recently. But I think a lot of people forget that like the audience are critics too. Like the audience are the biggest critics by far. If you ever comment on any videos, if you ever like talk to your friends and you're like, I didn't like this because of this, or I really like this because how they use this synth here, that is you being a critic, and I think that's totally fine. I think that's okay. We're all critics. Like whenever we eat food, we're thinking, how does this compare to the other thing that I had? Is this better than what I had before? And I think that is like good. You should be critical, right? Like you should be thinking about these things deeply because it's like what you enjoy, and like well, the main thing that we have in life is like what we enjoy. And I think it's very important when you're trying to figure out what you want to do in life, what you're trying to like listen to, what you're trying to eat. Like if we're not critical about these things, then we're just a gray blob in the center of the universe, bro. Like we need to have things that like have variance, right? So I think when we think about critics, we should also be thinking about ourselves, okay? And that's kind of like when I thought about like, oh, I'm like everyone's a critic. Like I'm a critic because I like make YouTube videos as well. But like we're all critics whenever we talk about this music or anything. You often hear artists kind of like talk negatively about how people saw their album or like the negative feedback that it had, and it can like really mess with your mind. Like critics have an impact. I think that is very apparent. I think it's very obvious, but kind of seeing it firsthand kind of changed my view on that. There's a Logic and Anthony Fantano conversation where Anthony Fantano interviews Logic, and basically they became kind of acquaintances after Anthony Fantano reviewed him a few times. Logic talks about,
we had a conversation and you were like, dude, my opinion is my opinion. Like literally, you were like, this night you said, you were like, dude, like you're a successful artist and you deserve to be where you are, and my opinion and everybody else's opinion doesn't fucking matter. You're like, it literally doesn't.
I've told you that multiple times.
Yeah, and you're like, dude, you're Logic. Millions of fucking people know you. Tour around the world. You fucking sell albums. You've done all this other shit. And when you said that shit to me, I was like, what? It was like Neo, like breaking free. You know what I mean? I was like, holy shit, Trinity. Like, that doesn't necessarily make it that. And so you would give a review of an album, and I'd be performing that album in a fucking arena, sold out, with thousands of people singing those lyrics that you said sucked right back to me. And I was like, I'm a fucking piece of shit failure. Like that's, and maybe that's just my fucking problem. You didn't, you know, you're sitting there reviewing the art, but I will also say my art is me, right? You know, so when somebody's like, oh, Logic's whack, maybe they're talking about a song or a specific album. But at that time for me, when I was reading into it and I was on the internet and shit, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm whack. Like, I'm a whack friend. Like, I'm a whack husband. I'm a whack. Like, that's how it felt. But guess what? That's not your fucking fault. That's where I was mentally at that time.
How their relationship changed his view. Before, when Anthony Fantano would review him, he would think so negatively about himself. Or like when fans would talk about his music, or like haters would talk about his music, he would think so negatively on himself, which caused him to like maybe change how he made something, or like change how he viewed his own music. I think it's very apparent when you have this massive artist say, you had this huge impact on me, positive and negative. I think it changes kind of like, oh, like there's a direct link here now. Before, you kind of had artists like say like, oh, like screw the critics, or like I don't listen to critics.
You said in the tweet that Vince Staples, that a lot of people were criticizing you for that project. Like it said it didn't sound like you. Like, and you just trying to make sense of it. Do you remember that?
I wasn't even trying to make sense of it. I just think people are stupid. Like, people are stupid because it's like, oh man, that's not you. Like, you know me, nigga? Like, no? All right, then shut the fuck up.
Do you feel like you're unfairly criticized for that project?
I don't care. I never care. I don't, like you said, I don't care if I'm impartial. If people like it, I'm for sure impartial. If you don't like it, I feel like everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, once you put something out in the universe, like you selling something, it's okay for people to say if they like it or they don't like it. Like,
but I think like a lot of artists do get impacted. I mean, I think I was even impacted to a degree when I was making my own music, and like I would have somebody say like, "Oh, this is trash, bro," and I would sit there for a second and be like, "Is it?" I'd be like, "Is this trash?" And I think like that thought has to cross your mind, but I think sometimes like people are just too harsh about it, and like it makes me view my art differently, and like that wasn't the intention. Like when I was making it for myself. I just happened to want to share it with the world, and I think that's what kind of comes with it. I think when people are critiquing, like there's ways to critique, obviously, and like, but these hurtful comments are like not beneficial to me. Like I think critics, and we'll get into this, but I think critics can be good. I think critics can be solid, but I think a lot of the biggest critics are just very overtly negative. There's a Ian Pitchfork review that I talked about. I made a video about. I'll link it down below, but that review was just largely negative. Didn't really give him any props on anything. Called him like horribly mundane and like doing X, Y, and Z. And this reviewer's, a lot of his takes were kind of like that. A lot of his reviews were just kind of negative or backhandish. That's like a complex reviewer. Like he is well known to that degree. And I think it just becomes kind of an issue that you have all these critics, all these people on the internet giving their opinion unsolicitedly, and they're not being constructive. They're just negative, which is why I had the initial idea and the initial thesis of that critics don't matter. Now, I think I was looking through it too much of in like an artist lens. I also got to think about it as a person who critiques music and a person who reviews music as well, and a person who's just a fan. I need to look it through that lens. Because as an artist, I'm like, screw the critics. As an artist, I'm like, it doesn't matter because I'm making my art for me and my friends. It doesn't matter. And to an extent, that's true, but to an extent, it's not. And so we'll get into that. So I think something that's positive about critics, I talked about a lot of negatives. One positive is that having supporters can be just as impactful as having haters. And I think it's even more impactful. Like if I have 1 million supporters, that's going to outweigh those 100 haters, right? The haters may be louder sometimes, right? But the 1 million supporters is like really what I care about. Like I get haters now, to be honest. Like I get haters all the time. But having any amount of supporters makes that like not really matter to me. And I think your fans can often give you valid critiques. It can train kind of what, if you're trying to make music for them, it can be very beneficial for that. I think artists like Drake, Charlie Puth, Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, these pop artists, I'm not saying that they don't make music for themselves as well, but I think they tailor their music to fit a certain environment, hit a certain aesthetic, maybe like reach a certain part of their audience with these pop records. And I think Drake is like a really big person that does this. And he does it to a very high degree, one of the highest degrees. And I think that's when listening to your audience, your supporters, maybe even your haters a little bit, can be very beneficial. Like Drake knows that, oh, if I go collaborate with this big artist, my fans are going to love it, their fans are going to love it, that's what I need to do. Or he'll be like, oh, I should make this Jamaican sound because these people are going to like it. Or like Taylor Swift, maybe referencing an old track or an old sound or talking about her past. She knows that's what her fans want. And yeah, it may be serving herself, but also in the back of her mind, she's like, I know this will sell well. She is the best, one of the best to ever do it. And you have to have that kind of knowledge of what your fans want of you, expect of you, and what you can give them in order to do that. And I think that's when supporters can be great. There are good financial means. There are good moral support. They'll back you no matter what's happening. I think fans and supporters are really good with that as a whole. I think that's when they're at their best. Now, I think there's many times where your supporters can kind of cloud what you're trying to do. I watched a video with Mac Miller. I'll put it right here.
You know, money, LMAG63. What happened to Mac? Donald Trump, missed calls, best day ever. We want the old Mac, space, exclamation point. I don't know what happened to me, man. I went through some shit. You know, I just haven't been able to make as good of music anymore. I'm falling off. Don't have as many fans, not making as much money. But yeah, I don't know what happened to me, dude. Jesse K, there is no old or new Mac. I hate those comments. Mac is a multi-talented artist. It would be a waste if he just made party hip-hop tracks. Like, no offense, Jesse. Like, I feel you. I never just made party hip-hop tracks. There's a bunch of other shit that was in there, too. However, like, I don't understand this, like, every single video, there's this. Like, there's always the, like, we want old Mac, and then there's the dude that's like, no, there is no old or new Mac. He's just like, you know, he's this.
And basically, I mean, you can see Mac Miller is kind of getting frustrated by these people saying, oh, like, I miss the old Mac Miller. Or there is no old Mac Miller. Everybody's, he's the same. He's just evolving. Like, he kind of had this issue, and I think a lot of artists, like, have had this response of, like, even Kanye. But it's like, this isn't, like, I can't stay as the old me. I need to evolve and change. And as fans, we want our artists to evolve and change. But I think also sometimes the artist will change, and necessarily you're not 100% with it like you were in the past. That makes you live in that past that you once had. I think that's what people do with did with Mac Miller. In that video, you can see, like, they're like, I miss the old Mac Miller. But in my opinion, we got the best Mac Miller music later in his life. And we can see that with Kanye as well, where he made a whole song where he's like, I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye, and that's a real thing. I miss the old Kanye, to be honest. Sometimes am a bigger fan of old Kanye's music versus new Kanye. But, like, people say they miss the old Kanye, or, like, I mean, that just happens in general with literally every artist. Some people will always prefer the old versus the new. And I think that's when your supporters can become negative really fast. Maybe they aren't your supporters much longer because they can't evolve with you. And I think that just is naturally going to happen. But I think a lot of people can revert to their old music because they're like, oh, my old fans don't like it, and I don't want to just, like, feed the new fans. I got to feed the old fans too, so they'll jump back into something that they used to do. I don't think that's really ever beneficial. I never really have seen that work very well. It always sounds pretty dated, and, like, it sounds like you're not evolving. And I think that's when critics can kind of, like, your supporters can get kind of, like, in your head, in your way. I think it happens all the time. But I think having supporters in general is a positive. That's kind of the point that I got to, is that, like, having supporters is a positive. Like, it's a good thing. And, like, saying that the critics don't matter, or, like, critics don't matter at all, kind of means that your supporters don't matter either. And, like, maybe they should matter to you. Like, maybe you're an artist and you're like, oh, I don't care about my critics at all. And, like, that works for you. I think Vince Staples is one person who kind of said that, like, if he doesn't care about the haters, he can't care about the supporters. But in my opinion, I think he cares about the supporters. He tweets and stuff and responds to them. I think he cares. I don't know why he's trying to act like he doesn't, because I think we all do. We all like supporters. Like, why wouldn't you, right? Like, you care about your supporters to an extent. And I think Vince Staples does, but you can see in the video that I'll put in here that like he says that he doesn't care, but that boy cares. He cares. We can we can move past that. And I think the audience can be very, very helpful. But when you're making this music, when you're making your art, I believe that you should come first. I think you should come first, your friends should come first, and then the audience or the critics. And I agree with Rick Rubin here. Like, I think they have to come last in order for your art to be as pure as possible. And I think when you say, like, they have to come last, that means they, like, really don't have any impact. But I think it's, like, I think it can kind of be quite the opposite. Like, you make this music for yourself, you make it for your friends are like, hey, it's decent. But then you look at your audience and you're like, oh, the audience, a large majority of them think I sound better when I do this. Let me try to dive into this. And I think when you listen to your audience, it can make you do things better. I think usually we think about critics, audience, supporters as just being a negative thing, and I definitely did before I kind of like thought this fully through. But I think it can be helpful, and I think for a lot of artists, like, they may look at Anthony Fantano, for example, and be like, oh, he's right, I didn't mix this well. The mix was muddy here. Like, maybe I should have added strings here. That would have been cool. Let me try that on my next song. I think that can be very beneficial. I think it's weird for artists to only prefer when people are being yes men or like overtly positive, rather than like giving genuine critiques or like genuinely how they feel. Like, I prefer someone being like, I like your video because you did X, Y, and Z, or you framed it X, Y, and Z. One of my favorite comments that I ever got was like, oh, I really like this video. It felt like a research paper. Now, like, I can see why he liked the video. If he just said I liked it, I appreciate that, of course. But when you say why you liked it, it makes me realize, oh, maybe this is something that I should keep doing. Maybe this is like a good thing that I should do. And it's like, oh, I also like this thing that I did. I'm glad other people appreciate it too. Or if someone's like, hey, I got one comment that was like, I love your video. It was a great video, but your camera is really bad. And I know. I know. Okay, I know my camera is like not the highest quality. We're not making money yet. Okay, we ain't got money like that, but if you want to donate, if you hit the link tree, I got a Cash App. I got my Cash App there. But in all seriousness, like when it's a genuine critique, a genuine criticism, someone genuinely just trying to tell you how they feel, that is the best thing that you can do. That is like the best outcome of someone commenting. And that's what I mean, the audience can come last. Like, I saw that comment, he was like, I love the video, but upgrade your camera. I was like, I made the video for myself. I made it for my homies that like to watch my videos, like, what would they like? But when they said that, I was like, okay, I should maybe get a new camera, like, look into investing in that. And when the dude was like, I like that, it was a research paper type of format, I was like, maybe I should do that again. Like, that's what I mean when the audience comes last. I didn't make it for John that said he liked it as a research paper, but when he commented that and like watched it and engaged with it, I did kind of make it for him, right? Like, I did. He enjoyed that, and I enjoyed it. And that's what I mean when the audience, I think the audience should come last. And I think that's what Rick Rubin might mean as well, that when we make these things, like, they do come up. They do have a place in your top 3 or your top 5. The audience will always be there because you're giving your product, giving this to the audience, like, on a platter. I'm giving it to you on a platter. I'm like uploading it, putting it on the channel. The only thing that I need to do is like market it better and things like that. But I'm like giving you this product, and like, so you do matter. Like, you the critic, you the reviewer, you the watcher, you do matter. And I think that was what I was missing in my initial thought process of making this video. Is I didn't consider that. I didn't realize that, like, we all matter. And I guess I did realize it, but like, I didn't think about it. And I think that's very important. I think it's important. But that's pretty much it for the video, man. As always, thank you for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, which we got to talk about that, gang. We got to talk about it. This is kind of the part of the video where I kind of give updates. I usually do it every once in a while. But yeah, we got to talk about the subscribers, gang. So, the Mac Miller video that I made got like 25,000 views, bro. It got like 25,000 views. That's crazy. It was a 15-minute video of me yapping about how much I like Mac Miller and how much glaze I can give. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy. And like, I got like 1,000 likes, like 200, like y'all commented like 200 times, gave me 1,000 likes. Like, what's happening? And I'm sitting there every day. I'm refreshing every day. My email's filled with like people commenting and subscribing. I'm like, bro, this has never happened to me on YouTube like this. Like, I've done good on TikTok Shorts and like Instagram Reels, but like a long formatted video to get 25,000 views, like I did something right there. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in, tapped in, supported me in any way, watched any videos that I ever made, but that video specifically too. I really appreciate that. And from that video, I gained like 200 subscribers. So I got 200 of y'all that I got to impress every day. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try. Okay, I'm definitely going to try. But, yeah, and I'm sorry for not uploading for a while as well. As you can see, I got a new crib. New crib alert. New crib alert. It's really giving 2024 influencer. Like the white walls, like I'm a streamer or something. Like that's what it's giving right now. But I got the art up. I got a couch over here. It's like a small little space. It's nothing crazy, but it's good enough. I'm by myself. I had a roommate, but he left me because he don't love nobody. Okay, so I'm by myself now, and that'll be really nice. I'm actually really excited. It's my first time living alone. You know what I'm saying? I used to live with my mom. You feel me? Used to live with the homies and in college too, but. Yeah, so this is my first time living alone, so we gonna see how it goes. If y'all see me get kind of weird, bro, just know, like, there was nothing I could do. But in all seriousness, bro, thank you guys for tuning in, tapping in. That's kind of the updates. Let me know what you thought about the video, genuinely. Any comments, anything, I would really appreciate it. Any feedback, or just about the topic in general, whatever you feel. As always, I love you guys and appreciate you guys. Peace out. Be smooth.